Education. Spiritual wisdom, not conformity scores. As we previously discussed, governance, artificial imposition, is innately wrong. So if we want a different future, a fairer, better reality, then we should focus upon respecting, encouraging, and building upon the innate naturality and insights of our newly arriving souls. The most crucial question in education is, what are we trying to do? And is it natural or artificial? Do children naturally walk in single-file lines, as if on conveyor belts of mass production, mass indoctrination? Would they naturally spend hours every day sitting in a building behind a desk, if allowed to invest their time according to their own natural instincts? Is this what they're begging to do during recess? Again, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to learn their more natural, wiser ways ourselves? Or are we trying to fit our own arbitrary artificial ways into their otherwise uncontaminated minds? What are we trying to do? In a spiritual, metaphysical reality, wouldn't the spirituality that can supersede physics itself frame everything else? What are we trying to do? Let's think about it this way. Is there even any innate commonality of life paths for which singular answers exist in the first place? In nature, there are no absolutes. Yes, it's true there can be very prominent general trends with powerful encompassed wisdom that can be voluntarily offered to those who are interested, illumination that may assist their paths if they would like it. So what are we trying to do? Is the goal conformity with and capitulation to what we've already decided are the answers without knowing the questions as to why each of them are here, who they specifically are, and the interests and sacred values that each are striving to pursue? Are we trying to break horses? Or are we trying to learn from, collaborate with, and responsibly follow the lead of our arriving visionaries? What good is recitation of facts and methods? If we need more memory, we should buy a flash drive, rather than waste our precious, newly arriving souls' childhoods teaching them to be echoes, instead of supporting them as the courageous beings who they already are, able to stand true to their visionary ideals, giving voice and example to the values that can facilitate the better world that we need. Are we trying to teach that metaphysics is false or true? Are we trying to teach lies or truths? What is the meaning of a, quote, right answer amidst the real world where belief shapes reality as with the placebo effect and physics can melt away? Do we conceptualize billiards as a game where the, quote, laws of physics are locked and solid, and our job is to be good robots and correspondingly speaking the lingo of numbers? Or as an opportunity for soulful creativity, enlisting the thousands upon thousands of ways that the game could be played and won with physics conventions dissolved away? It would be too obviously ridiculous to try to teach children to memorize the impenetrable jungle of laws that the governance forces themselves can't be bothered to even count. So the workaround is to teach the, quote, laws of physics, to falsely state that everything always happens a certain way, and that it's literally the social law, and that if you disagree, to clearly convey that everyone else has the right to ostracize you. And likewise with all the other so-called facts, for which students are ranked, graded, and branded with social conformity scores that eventually impact their ability to get a job, to save, and to speak and live with freedom. The more you comply with artificiality, the, quote, freer you get to be. And the truly freer you start out, the more open-minded, creative, and inquisitive that you are, the more faithful you are to your sacred conscience, contrary to rampant artificiality, then the more licenses others are given to ridicule, ostracize, and exclude you, and starve you of resources for your future freedom and even survival. The madness of this conformity machine needs to end. Nobody should be getting near children unless the first order of business is to respect them and their precious, free, clear, natural minds. And if you're going to, quote, teach the children something, it damn well better be the carefully, responsibly presented truth. What's called, quote, education is a precise parallel to the problems of the artificial world, as compared against the naturality of and the sacred values nurtured within infants by their mothers, before the opposite is then taught to them as teenagers, and they rightfully become enraged by a surround sound society of rampant hypocrisy. This side-by-side comparison was presented in our original video series at everyoneisfamily.com. The world has vigorous pursuit of technical innovation, yet chronic persistence of policy problems. There's convenience for the minority gender, yet struggles for the majority. The same thing with wealth. Minuscule groups have great wealth, while great populations have minuscule wealth. The affluent struggle with boredom, while the poor struggle for attention. Our artificial societies congratulate themselves while steamrolling indigenous, natural, time-tested wisdom. Gaia is ridiculously seen as something to be consumed, while we abandon our reverence for all forms of consciousness. We contemplate how, without prioritizing the long-range perspective of the original purpose. We think in terms of material needs and over-prioritize ourselves relative to the immediate needs of massive populations in other parts of the world. We operate within, quote, legal systems characterized by complexity and hypocrisy rather than common sense and integrity, incomprehensibility instead of clarity to conscience, and which amount to an abundance of threats fixated specifically upon what we don't want rather than the exemplary kindness that everybody wants. In short, newly arriving souls to this world are trained to be capitulating, conformist, and consequently complacent minds, rather than supported as the courageous hearts and souls who they innately are for incarnating here in the first place. In the same way that ages are all unique and important, and that any individual age, any individual birthday is an odd one out, there is no standard person, and there is not supposed to be. Exact redundancy amounts to commoditization, amounts to eliminating the specific soulful purpose and opportunity of an entity. Freedom, to locally attend to fairness, is the definition of fairness and of freedom. As soon as a map is created, reality is conceptualized in secondary and commoditized terms. Commoditization, comparison, valuation is only ever meant to be local and supporting. The idea is not to have dominion over the world, but to maintain our respect, our awe, our reverence, our wonder, so that everyone has a voice, and we can trustingly co-create the best possible future for everyone. Do we want to be loved? Then we need to be loving. External reality requires our soulful contributions if we plan to enjoy its existence. As they say in Casablanca, maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of our lives. How soon? Well, for the billions who have been needlessly suffering for decades, and for our spiritual seniors who have been called animals and violently abused, this instant is plenty late enough. We'll continue in the next video.